here live with Jessica Alpha on Harrowings podcast. Thank you for joining. We got Lost Vibes 100 as well, part of my board of directors. What I find
Nice.
interesting is a lot of times people have names like Lost Vibes 100. I have no idea who this person is. They sometimes speak, on text me back. Oh, you got Francesca Cassini. She's a friend of Kay Stoner, who we talk AI stuff with.
Oh,
And
nice.
Jessica Alpha and I will be talking a little bit about AI as well and catching up a little bit on a couple things. We're just talking about, kiddos and the funny
Yes.
things they say as well. She's recently had your kiddo, adventure of the body, as I like to say.
Yes.
What's
Yes.
she doing? And
She's
you want
good.
to tell me?
Well, she broke her big toe on her left foot last Tuesday. She landed wrong on the trampoline. Uh, Parents, if your kid wants a trampoline, maybe tell them no. Like, I don't know if I'm okay now with keeping the trampoline, but it's still in the backyard, just not being used currently. But yeah, she's doing good. She's doing good. She's having to miss Kung Fu. She's on the performance team for Kung Fu, and they have a performance this weekend. But it's kind of nice. Like, we get to stay home and have like a quiet, family time together instead of rushing off like an hour away and like shoving her uniform on and rushing her on the stage. And this one, I think they make you buy a ticket even if you're a parent. I'm like, all right, I don't know. Maybe it's not a bad thing to miss this one.
Interesting. The things that kids get up to these days, she's involved in some other things besides Kung Fu, right?
Yeah, she's in gymnastics as well. I think she's a little sadder about missing that because she loves gymnastics because they kind of let them play quite a bit. They've got like this big foam pit that they get to like practice jumping into, and she loves that. It's basically like a playground.
Well, that's great. How old is she, if you don't mind me asking?
She's 9. Her birthday's in February, so yeah, she's 9.5. Mhm.
Early February?
February 23rd is
Okay,
her
so she
birthday.
falls into the Pisces camp. I always
Yeah.
like to know because I'm a February 4th baby.
Oh,
I fell into Aquarius. I don't really believe in astrology much, but I found a really interesting thing. They have a thing here in DC called the Jung Institute,
okay.
and I went there and was listening to Richard Tarnas when I was getting ready for graduate school. I was really interested in getting myself educated, so I bought a book called The Passion of the Western Mind by Richard Tarnas,
Hmm.
and he's out in California, and then he wrote one called Cosmos and Psyche, which makes a case for it really mattering, and that you can see the cycles of the planets and then compare them to historical events like the French Revolution and the alignment then versus the alignment at different points in history in which there was a similar alignment and similar things were happening in our psyches. So I don't know, I like that stuff. It entertains me. It makes me feel like, well, there's more in heaven and earth than is dreamt of in your philosophy. But I don't know.
Maybe.
Just
Maybe.
I just riffed off of something there, so that just went off in a different direction. So let's bring it back
But
to Earth and
now
hear
hold on a
more
sec.
about.
I do
Yeah.
want to talk to you about astrology because I think that's
Oh,
super interesting. Let's go for it. Yeah, I think you picked a good one. I never believed in it until, and I still don't really, to be honest. But we started looking into Chinese astrology because we're like, well, we're in Kung Fu. Let's like embrace it, right?
okay.
We're gonna go to Chinese restaurants. We're gonna watch Chinese costume dramas. Like, we're gonna go full force into this thing. And my my sign is Taurus in just like regular astrology, but it was really interesting. I am a water ox in Chinese astrology, so I'm still like the same. I thought that was really interesting because Taurus is like a bull and water ox is an ox, right? So it was very similar. And the some of the similarities were the same. It was like you have a strong maternal instinct. True. Anyone who injures my child will no longer be breathing. So yeah, it's super interesting. My husband is a water dog, and it was cute because it was like he's loyal. He's a little bit goofy. I was like, this is him to a T, but he's also very intelligent. So I thought it was super interesting.
Water dog, huh? No.
Yeah.
Was it water dog? Okay.
Yes. So the
I am a
water and
water
the
rabbit.
fire and
I
the
just looked at the chart.
Yeah. Oh, perfect.
Being January 25th of 1963 to February 12th, 64, I am a water rabbit.
Oh, cute. What's it
Water
say
rabbit.
about the rabbit?
Let's see, rabbits. Woody Mall. Let's see. Or hare is the fourth in the 12th periodic sequence of animals that appear in the Chinese zodiac related to the Chinese calendar. Da, 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 da. So I'm just looking at this. People born within this date can be said to have been born in the year of the rabbit. Okay, da, 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 da. It doesn't tell me what they're like. Wikipedia needs to be expanded here.
Wow. Yeah. 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 It's all you got, huh?
That's all I got off the top. I am a Aquarius, Sagittarius rising. You know about rising signs?
Is that like when you were born? I don't
The
like
time of
the
day you're born, right? So
yes.
the
Yeah.
sun was in Sagittarius when I was born, 3:21 in the morning.
Okay. Oh,
Three, two,
wow.
one, boom, I'm here.
So you were a troublemaker then as a child because you woke your mom up to be
To
to
be
be in
born.
this world.
I don't know what time labor started. I was the second baby, so it might have been quick. I don't
Yeah.
know. My sister came along. I don't know what time of day actually, but she's a Gemini. A Gemini Cancer cusp, June 21st, first day of
Hmm.
summer. She came home on my parents' first anniversary, June 27th, 1960. And yeah, she was an only child and still would prefer to think of herself as such, I think. Families can be. Um,
Yes.
we did want to talk about your app too, of course.
Sure.
And how's the testing going and what's happening there? We caught up a little bit before we're going live, but a lot of people here probably don't even know about it. So give us some
Okay.
context.
So let's start from the top then. I'll try to keep it quick though for people that have already heard it like 50 times. But um, about a year ago, I and 10 others were part of a mass layoff of a marketing agency. Out of the blue, we got an email that said, financial situation is dire. We're letting some of you go. You'll get another email if you're one of the ones that is being laid off. So, yeah,
And the
great way.
second arrived, and you were like,
Yeah. Yeah, well, and there was about a 25-minute wait, so I was like working, but also like, should I be working? Should I even? I don't know, But yeah, I got the email, and so did some of my other friends. Another writer that I was working with, his name is Nick. He was laid off, and then the AI guy for the team, his name is Dwayne. He was laid off, and he messaged me maybe like an hour later or less, and he was like, "Hey, do you remember that time a year ago when we had a conversation and you gave me an idea about starting like a app to help like people with their dogs?" And I was like, "No, I don't remember that." He's like, "Yeah, well, you had this idea. Do you want me to build it for you?" I'm like, "Okay, why not? It's not like we're doing anything else right now." So I was thinking, we're going to need more than two people. So I reached out to a couple more people, and Nick was on board. So it was myself, Nick, and Dwayne. And it's been a year now, and we actually have an app built. It's in testing. We just finished the first round of testing. It's an AI app, and basically it's just going to make it easier for people and their kids to take better care of their pets. Right now it's just limited to cats and dogs, although I've had the testers ask it some really random questions about like horses and things, and apparently it's done okay. But for legal reasons, we can't say it's going to give you good advice for other animals it hasn't been trained to answer about. So cats and dogs right now. But it's one of the main things that I think is super cool about this app is that you'll be able to create a pet profile or multiple pet profiles, and you'll put in all the information about your pets, and then you can ask the AI about your pets, and it will give you tailored information to your pet. So it's not going to be generalized advice that you'd find on Google. It's going to be, okay, well, your pet weighs this much, your pet does this much, this is what you should do if it's having trouble eating or if it needs to eat less. I mean, there's different things, but it's super neat because it can also create a PDF or a Word doc that you can actually send to your pet sitter or your kids, and it will tell them when to take care of the pet, how to take care of the pet, and that sort of thing. You can also find vets in your area that provide specific services that you need. So yeah, it's got a lot of stuff there, so I'm excited about it. Again, it's still in testing, so that's one thing about being an entrepreneur for the first time. Like you learn things as you go, and I did not know what the testing process was like, so I'm learning a lot at the same time.
Interesting. So, yeah, go on with what you're learning at the same time about testing.
Well, for apps, I don't know if this is true for others. If there's any business owners listening in, let me know. But for apps, you want to do kind of like unit testing where you test very specific things at a time. So it comes in kind of like waves. So the first thing we tested was the general AI chat experience, as far as if it was answering questions correctly, if it was able to give safe answers, if you were able to kind of get it off track and make it give you inappropriate or unsafe answers, that sort of thing. The next testing will be the login experience. So if you're able to log in, if you're able to get to the different parts of the app, if you're able to get to the payment side of the app, if you're able to get to the user agreement and the disclosure section, all of those things will be tested with that second one. And then there'll be another one that will just be for the pet profiles. And that will be like, can you create a pet profile? What does that look like? Is the AI pulling that information or is it not? So yeah, it's very segmented, which I think from a marketing perspective, that makes sense. That's my job, my 9 to 5. I think we should talk about you in a bit here too about that. But yeah, my 9 to 5 is marketing, and segmenting is what we do, as far as like, okay, we have to segment email lists whenever we're deciding who to send emails to, or we have to segment different audiences for different websites. Like not everyone is going to want to look at a specific page. So what does that look like? So I am kind of learning. It's kind of going, back and forth a bit, and AI too. We use AI in marketing, and we're using AI. I mean, our app is AI, so yeah, it's super interesting to kind of learn and have these crosses here.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of advertising on bus stops, and I was just trying to find information on it, and I can't. It's like, oh, what's this about? Humane Watch? Is that what it is? Anyway, no, that's different. There's this big things that say shaky to shaky ER. Like, take your dog if your dog's shaky. Maybe take your dog to this. You'll know through whatever this thing is. I'll have to pay more attention to it next time, and maybe we
Yeah,
can talk about what this is, and maybe it has a synergy with your work. I
it
know
might.
a lot of people have similar ideas, and when you start launching your ideas out there, it can be really kind of dicey whether somebody's going to pick it up and steal it from you. Do you have any
That's true.
worries about that at all?
Well, we did actually have a hacker test it too. So that's one thing. The thing about AI is that someone is always going to come around and be able to do it a little bit better, because AI is constantly improving, right? It started out as open source. Everyone is putting in these ideas and training it and getting these different models. And my dog will not stop shaking. I'm sorry. Speaking of shaking, he's
Oh,
an
no.
Italian Greyhound. That's what he does. Yeah. Um, but yeah, it's AI is just constantly changing. So what will make it work is going to be A, the customer service, and B, how the app makes you feel. It
Mhm.
doesn't even matter if there's a slightly better or slightly different app out there that does the similar things. If you feel better and more confident and in a more positive way using one app, that's the app you're going to stick to. That's why a lot of people left Twitter/X, right? Like they just didn't like it. So they left it. They went to Blue Sky or they went to other apps instead.
Yeah, I'm
Same
on
thing.
both.
They didn't feel good on it, even though it offered a lot of different things in
Yeah, I
entertainment
like
and
not
stuff.
feeling good. I feel like I need to be shaken up occasionally, challenged in my thinking. I think I know what's right, but then I hear these other voices, and I actually have this prefrontal cortex I can filter.
funny. You know, it's an interesting debate because it's like, okay, I want to be challenged, but at the same time, I also want to know if I'm doing it right.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
You
that's the
know?
thing. Be slow to judge is my thing.
Yes. Yes. And
It's
I
like,
think
I don't
that's
know, man. Yeah, I have a friend whose nickname is I don't know, man, like a
cute.
superpower. Because he like starts out every response with "I don't know, man," but this is the way I see it.
Yeah.
Could be
That's an
wrong.
interesting way to start it. I mean, at the end of the day, do we know anything? Maybe not. Like, we're all just doing our best, right?
Well, have you ever read A Course in Miracles?
I don't think so.
Do you know
Who's
anything
it
about
by?
it?
I don't think so.
Okay, let me dig in here a little bit
Okay.
with A Course in Miracles because this is kind of an interesting thing to me because I'm such a skeptic about all of these things, right? A
Yes.
Course in Miracles, background is that it was a book, a 1976 book by Helen Schucman. And apparently, I think her background was she's a psychiatrist. Its editor was Bill Thetford and Kenneth Wapnick. Apparently, they channeled this spirit, supposedly interdictation from Jesus Christ. Okay.
All right.
And it's
We're going to go
the book
there,
has
are
been
we, Hal?
called everything from New Age psychobabble to a satanic seduction to the New Age Bible. And, Marianne Williamson was big into it, right? Of Course in
Okay.
Miracles. She ran for president, you may recall, in 2020. I don't think she got very far, but, and I like to think of Marianne as a voice crying in the wilderness because a lot of what she's saying is spot on as far as I'm concerned about social matters, right? And how we're conducting ourselves and our economics and just the lack of equity between different peoples around the world and our systems and how they tend to, empower. I just heard recently you can expect by, I think it's 2027 for Elon Musk to become the first trillionaire. So, something to think about. That this hoarding of wealth, right?
Yeah.
My neighbor up here, up the block, is Jeff Bezos, who owns the Washington Post, and
Oh, you just Jeff Bezos is your neighbor. Wow.
yeah, he's right over the hill. He bought a double mansion that used to be the textile museum. The textile
Oh.
museum moved down to the George Washington University,
Mm.
and Jeff bought its.
Were you sad about that you lost your textile museum?
Well, it's still down at the George Washington University. We were kind of sad about it. Actually, a friend of mine wanted to go see it and found it closed, and then it was gutted, the whole old building that it's in. Most of these
Mm.
buildings date from sometime around the turn of the last century. And mine's 1904, for instance, down in the bunker, I call it, but it's in a rather large building broken up into condos over the years. I think the last time it was really remodeled was the 1980s from the look of things. We did a little remodeling when we bought it in 2010, gave it some nice bamboo floors back here instead of this big foam carpet. And I'm digressing. But you
I
get the
was
point.
interesting. I was like, oh wow, y'all did some work. That's
We did
good.
some nice work. We put in a bathroom that my wife can shower in easily because she's half paralyzed from a stroke that she suffered at the age of
Mhm.
42. I like to talk about that because if you have a really bad headache at 42 and there's no reason to suspect meningitis, do not let them do a spinal tap until after you've been cleared of the possibility that it's like a little clot going to the perforated artery off the main vertebral, which is
Mm.
Lynn's case, because the clot busting drugs that they can use to make that better, which another friend of mine had happened to her, and she did get TPA and she's fine. Those can't be used if they've done a spinal tap because it could form a hematoma at the site of the spinal tap, which causes waist down paralysis potentially. And all things being equal, it's better to be half paralyzed than it is to be paralyzed from the waist down. So I've gone from remodeling the house to that. So we do have a nice, we tore out the old fiberglass tub that was in there from the 80s or whenever and put in a really nice limestone, shower with grab bars and a built-in seat
Mhm.
and all that stuff that is necessary for her to be comfortable. She's got a headache right now, so I'm kind of concerned and gave her some Tylenol and hopefully that's going to break the fever and we'll see if she feels better. Headache, it's dicey when you're living in a community where there's lots of disease and circulation, and COVID is still out there, folks.
Yep.
I was feeling kind of lousy earlier in the week, and I went
Uh-oh.
my one medical group, which Amazon happens to own, so I'm feeding into that same stuff. It's kind of weird how everything's enmeshed, right? So, on my mind has been, how can we leverage AI to level the playing field a little bit more, make
Yes.
equity possible for people, make a better world for all species, not only me, but all our pets and all of us. I like to call it
Right.
Operation Zookeeper.
Yes. Yes. There's a lot of resistance to AI,
Right.
and a lot of it comes from people don't really know what all it can and can't do. And that fear of the unknown is just kind of our MO as a human race, right? Like we just, kids are afraid of the dark. We don't like it if we have to try something that we've never done before. Like you've got your risk takers and so forth, but those people are the people who are for AI, like they're all the way in it. But the people who are a little bit more cautious, the people who maybe didn't grow up around technology as much, their thing about AI is like, I've seen Black Mirror and I don't want that, or I've, I don't trust something that's not a human, and I find that very interesting. Because yeah, I've also watched Black Mirror, and there's some scary stuff on there. Have you seen Black Mirror at all?
I have not. My wife has watched a little bit of it. One thing I would also point out, the I don't know part, the court case and miracle, I never did get around to that. It opens up with a thing about, I know nothing about this pencil. No. And
Okay.
then you move on from there. It's to just coach yourself into not knowing anything. We have Deborah DeForest is weighing in on COVID, and this is interesting. I looked up what she said first, which is COVID is heavy metal plus EMF, and the AI overview of this. And whenever anybody says something's a conspiracy theory, I'm like, yes, I want to hear about it. Right. And somebody was telling me recently, conspiracy comes with breathing together. So let us all take a breath and relax and take it easy and not overreact to the fact that there is information coming in about that on the chat. I don't think anybody is yet, but it says here, and I'm sure Deborah will correct me where I'm wrong. The statement COVID is heavy metal plus EMF is a conspiracy theory that has been widely debunked by the medical and scientific communities. COVID-19 is an infectious disease caused by SARS-CoV-2 virus, which spreads through respiratory droplets, not electromagnetic fields, or heavy metals. But the heavy metals exposure, which can weaken the immune system and cause respiratory damage, can increase the severity of COVID-19, but does not cause the disease. And it goes on, and you can look this up yourself, and this could be propaganda to try to get you off the trail of something you've discovered. I don't know. But when it starts talking about this, it brings me back, and I'm sorry I'm deviating a little bit from where you were,
That's okay.
Jessica.
No, COVID's an
When I
interesting
was
topic. I'm all
you
ears.
you were talking about jobs and things we've
Yes.
done in our careers. And when I got out of college, I got real tired real fast of my father reading the want ads to me over the breakfast table, right?
Fair.
And I got a summer job in the Getty Foundry in Colonial Williamsburg, which is right on the corner of Palace Green. Do you know Williamsburg at all? Have you ever been there?
I have
Well,
not.
okay. Well, it is a restored 18th century town, the capital of Virginia from 1699 to 1780. Rockefeller comes in at the behest of the rector of Bruton Parish Church, which is the oldest continually operating Episcopal church in America.
Wow.
And the rector there, Goodwin, he tried to get Henry Ford to do something about it because automobiles were destroying the town, and just the new technology. Speaking of AI, new technology of automobiles and roads and all that was beginning to really tear things up. But he got Rockefeller interested instead, and Rockefeller bought the whole damn town, basically, and took out what wasn't 18th century, restored what was, and then reconstructed what was missing in between, mostly. And it's sort of a colonial revival thing. The whole colonial revival movement sort of stems out of that. And then we get the great man theory of history, that there were Washington, Jefferson, Madison, Monroe, they all cut their teeth as young politicians and lawyers and farmers as well. In Washington's case, he was a planter. But, a lot of our ideals come out of that. And actually, the town was established with a strong support from John Locke, the philosopher. And so, anyway, I'm working in the foundry, and heavy metal was a big part of it. And both of the master of the shop at that time and the journeyman have since died. And the journeyman, I think he really did go down to something related to the exposure to metals that we were given by dint of, if you're pouring brass, it boils. And what's boiling is the zinc. You're getting zinc oxide just coming off of that crucible. And you're exposed to all kinds of things when you're working in a foundry. And he died kind of young, about 70. And too bad. He was working on a verse translation of Ovid's Metamorphosis at the time. The guy read Latin for fun. There are a lot of interesting characters in Williamsburg anyway, because of the historic trades department where they're preserving historic trades and the hand skills, because you're right at the juncture there at 1780 of the Industrial Revolution. And as far as the hand skills go, it was really developed to its peak at that point. So preserving those and finding people who want to keep them alive is, not easy, but it's also something that organization funds, or at least it's part of what it funds. And I try to do what I can to support it. So it was my hometown. My father was a historian there since before I was born. Now where were we going with that? This thing popped up and I did want to respond it a little bit. I know this person believes very much in what they're saying. I don't know what their credentials are, but yeah, keep on talking. I mean, there's no harm. Not you. Just a second. I'm talking to the person texting.
Oh, Deborah.
And with the idea of you've got information, okay, and I don't think the mainstream is buying it right now. But when it comes down to it, we should listen to all voices. And some people are crazy. That just happens. I've actually been diagnosed as being crazy in the past. It was a misdiagnosis, as it turns out.
Well, that's good.
Well, and it depends on who you talk to. You talked about goofiness, for instance, in your husband.
I did, yes. You know what? You're absolutely right. People do look at him like he's crazy on occasion because he'll do just the silliest, cutest things. Like he broke out in like a dance with my daughter in the middle of what we're doing. We're waiting in line for a movie, right? And he just started dancing with her, and people were kind of looking like, "What is this?" And I'm sitting here like, "Yeah, this is what good parenting looks like." People like, you try it,
Well, right. I had a friend who had a kid as well in the German department at the University of Pittsburgh. Going back to my career a little bit, I left Williamsburg after being in the conservation section for a while because I knew I was being exposed to a lot of stuff there. Solvents and things you use in conservation. Pardon my cough. Maybe I've got some of that heavy metal stuff going on. Anyhow, what was interesting was I went there, and one of the people who joined our German department, I think the year after I started, was a woman named Jennifer, and her husband worked at Bayer, but she had a little kid, and she was just really exuberant, and she'd do little greatest hits of West Side Story in the middle of the elevator in the Cathedral of Learning, and she'd say, "You can never freak people out more than by being happy in public." Along those lines.
Yeah. Well, there's that expectation to be not yourself when you're in public, when you're supposed to be like you're what society wants you to be. But, I think it's important to always be yourself because if you're not, then you have to live with that and no one else does. So, I'm not big on dressing up unless I want to. I'm not big on, acting a certain way unless I want to. I follow the belief of, try to make the world a better place, do what feels right to you. But at the same time, don't put on things and pretend to be something that you're not. Just be you. And I think that's what I really want to instill in my daughter too. But to be honest with you, I don't even need to because she's 1,000% her. I couldn't make her be different even if I wanted to. So I'm super happy with that. She's, I think that's a good segue into her toe and things. She always says the most ridiculous things, but they're so great. And little backstory here about 2 years ago, I've snapped my ankle on Christmas Eve. I was just taking my dog out, and I was an idiot because I live in Illinois and there was snow on the ground. But I put on my flip flops, and so I went,
Flip-flops.
slipped on the deck, and just hit my leg against the edge of the deck, and oh yeah, I broke it. I thought it was a sprain because I'm an idiot, and I just didn't want to go to the emergency room, so I hobbled around in a brace that I had for 2 days before actually getting it looked at. But anyway, I had
Did they
to
have to
be in
re-break it?
a. I'm sorry, what?
Did they have to re-break it for you? Just so
No,
that oh, good.
I
Lucky
did.
you.
I knew what I was doing as far as making sure it didn't move, so I was able to avoid surgery and everything. And I was going to say they put me in a wrap and a boot, and I was in a wheelchair. Like they were like, "You don't move that foot, and you won't have to have surgery." So I was like, "Okay, sure." And then eventually I got onto the crutches as well. So it was a wheelchair for 6 weeks, and then crutches for 6 more weeks or something like that. But yeah, it was a really long time. But when Zenny got her crutches last week, she looked over at me. She goes, I have crutches now. The circle is complete. I thought that
Oh,
was the
sweet.
cutest thing. Um, it was just, the most random cute comments. Like she remembered the crutches. She's on them now. Like this is how it goes, you know?
Precocious for that age.
Yeah, yeah, she's very fun. You never know what she's gonna say, but it always kind of makes sense in a way. It's not maybe a way that I thought about, but it will always make sense in her way. So yeah, she's definitely herself, and I think that's the best way to be is yourself. As far as the COVID thing, no virus has ever been proven to exist. I mean, don't we have like microscopes and stuff? Haven't they looked at these things? Like, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a scientist, but
Well, I'm sorry. There are a lot of things out there, more things in heaven and earth than are dreamt of in our philosophies, as Shakespeare said. So I listen to people who have these perspectives and, the flat earthers. They're real interesting. And a lot of
yeah.
it is I want to have knowledge that nobody else has, and I want to belong.
Mm.
It's a need to belong to something and to really I will believe all kinds of crazy stuff. For instance, um, I have, my personal, you know, spirituality is tied up with the same thing that Pete Townsend got into in 1969. I'm looking so forward now. On September 10th, they've rescheduled Philadelphia. I drove all the way up there only to have the show postponed, and I've got a front row seat for the Who's Song Is Over tour. Um, so anyway, I'm going on September 10th now. I had a nice stay in a nice hotel, so I got a room in the same little boutique hotel. And my wife doesn't want me driving back after the show. I could do it, but it is a long drive, and I'm usually pretty tired by the time I run up to Philly during the day and then back if I'm going up to a show, which I have done fairly often, but it is taking your life in your hands on the highways these days because, as my great grandfather says, you have to drive like everybody else on the road. It's crazy. So, where am I going with that? Spirituality, things I believe. Read a lot. I'm skeptical still, but there's this character named Mayor Baba that Pete Townsend sort of started following and believing in, and he wrote a whole rock opera called Tommy about it, right?
Huh.
Pinball Wizard, cause and effect, you know, that this
A rock
world we're
opera.
living in is being played. It's a Leela, as I think Baba said, a kind of play that we're all participating in. And you shouldn't take it all too seriously. Bobby McFerrin did a riff off of Mayor Baba and his song, Don't Worry, Be Happy.
Oh, hey.
Right? You're familiar with that. A lot of pop culture is
Huh.
tainted by Baba's silence. He didn't speak after 1924. He dropped the body in 1969. So, I don't know. It could all be illusion. And that's what Baba would tell you that this is all, there's only one thing that exists, and that is
Mhm.
God incarnate. and him. And there's this song that I put in one of my posts not too long back called "You Alone Exist," which is a prayer he started as a couplet in 1959 with one of his mandali, his circle. And what connected me to him was the director of religious life had been a kid in Mayor Baba's circle before coming to us as our director of religious life in the 80s. And he was writing a book called The Awakener. Because Baba said, I haven't come to lay down any dogmas or anything. I've come just to awaken and bring everything together like beads on one string. If you look up the Who's canon, there's actually a song, Beads on One String. And yeah, so all that stuff is tied together. Bargain by The Who from Who's Next. A lot of people know that song. I call that a bargain, the best I ever had. Gladly lose me to find you. It's talking to Baba, you know,
Huh. That's
although it
interesting.
sounds like a love song, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so knowing that and having that in the background, you can sort of you feel something, right? Because we want to belong to something. All of us do. We want to be, and my old German professor, when I was in Randolph-Macon College, he used to start his lectures the same way every time. He'd be talking about the naive versus sentimental, the Dionysian versus the Apollonian, and he'd take a big piece of chalk and smear it sideways across the chalkboard. And then he'd take two fingers, go, and he'd say, this is the all, and we are differentiated out of the all, and we are always seeking return to the all. I don't know. I loved it because he would talk about how you only find meaning in life through relationship with each other.
Hmm.
And how are we going to relate? Well, we have to communicate, right? And there was communications like Goethe's Faust. He would walk us through all of Faust in a semester or two. I think maybe it was 2 semesters of going through Faust Part 1 and Faust Part 2. And you know the story of Faust, right? You familiar with it at all?
You have to remind me.
Well,
this
basically,
is
Faust
this is
is like a
before noon. I'm still waking up.
well, Faust is looking for knowledge, right? He wants to know, right? He's tired of digging through all these different things he's learned, all chemistry and philosophy and all this. He's an alchemist. He conjures Mephistopheles,
Huh.
who tells him, okay, I'll give you what you want. And once you're satisfied with it, I get your soul.
Oh, nice.
At the moment at which you say, hold, it's too beautiful. Just stop right here. That moment is the moment in which Mephistopheles would have won his bargain with the Lord. And basically, it's like the Job thing, you know, where the devil comes to the Lord and says, hey, your servant Job there, you think he's really straight up, but you take everything from him, you demolish him, and he's going to renounce you, which Job fails to do,
Hmm.
which gives Job sort of the upper hand morally over the demiurge, Yahweh. This is what Carl Jung talks about in Answer to Job. So I've deviated again to something else, but Jung and Goethe have a relationship. It's all in the Memories, Dreams, and Reflections. I highly recommend people read that if they're interested. But, you know, I can go all over the place with this stuff. You did ask about my career, and, you know, we talked about losing gigs and not having that, and then that opening up something, right?
Yes.
Opportunity. You were very fortunate, I think, to have that fella say, "Hey, you have
Yes.
this idea for an app." You had even forgotten it?
I'd forgotten it. I had no idea.
Tell me
I
about it.
It was over a year ago, and keep in mind I've had over 3 concussions, or at least 3 concussions, so my
Oh,
memory's
interesting.
not great.
I'm interested in that. Okay, talk to me about your concussions and
Oh,
traumatic brain
you wanna
injury.
hear all the okay, let me see if I
I have
can,
a connection to this too.
do them in chronological order. Okay, so the first confirmed one was a horseback riding accident. I was on my horse, and I did write about Joe. He's in my Substack, one of the P for Pet stories, but he's a thoroughbred. He was 9. I fell in love with him because I had been trying other horses and they were
Yep.
slow or boring. And this one ran away with me and I loved it. Like I could not slow him down. I was like, this is the one I want. Remember I was telling you about risk takers earlier. I was absolutely a risk taker when I was younger. So I got him. And, he would jump anything as long as I lined him up for it. If I didn't line him up for it, he would stop dead. And then I would go flying. This happened more often than I'd care to admit. But um, one time we were in a field doing kind of like a cross country course. For those of you not familiar with that, that just means jumps in the wild. So they clear out like a field or a farm area, and they put jumps in specific places, like near trees or by a hill or by a little pond or whatever, and you just jump them in an order. Well, we were doing that, but there was a hole in the ground that we didn't see, and he got his hoof in there, and he fell to his knees, and I fell on my head. I was wearing a helmet, but it didn't
Uh-huh.
matter because it was Texas clay, which is really, really hard.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I landed on my head. My mom took me to the emergency room, and they're like, "Yeah, she's got a concussion. Her pupils are different sizes. Like she's you need to watch her. We'll get." They did like the CT scan or whatever. Remember that that made the loud noises, and then they sent me home. So that was my first concussion. Um, Second concussion was when I was working as a pizza delivery girl at an Italian restaurant, and there was this wooden like shelf, like a little bookshelf in the back of the pizza restaurant. And I was grabbing some pizza boxes, and I turned really quick and rammed my temple into the corner of that wooden shelf. And it was such a hard hit that when I got home, I went to the bathroom, and my husband or my boyfriend at the time, husband now, he was like, "What's wrong?" I was like, I don't know which toothbrush is mine." And he came into the bathroom and he looked in my eyes. He's like, "Yeah, you've got a concussion. It's okay. This is your toothbrush. We're going to keep an eye on you. We're going to take you to the hospital." So that was number two. And then the third one this is the most random, ridiculous one. Like, I do feel like sometimes I'm very lucky, like you said, about the app and things. But this time, a speaker fell on my head. Like, it was a wall speaker. It was behind the couch, and it just fell right on my head. And it was a pretty significant impact to the point where, yeah, my pupils are different sizes. I was a little bit delirious, had to be checked out. So, yeah, that's the three I remember. I feel like there might be one more, but funny enough, I don't remember what it is. But yeah, I do feel like my memory's definitely declined a bit over the years. So no, I don't. I did not remember the conversation that Dwayne remembered. Of course, he's an AI guy. You know, you know how they talk about left versus right-brained people? Like, he is absolutely that logical, analytical, like, this is how this works, and this is what.
Programmer.
Yes, absolutely. Developed websites. He's actually has a very successful web development. What do you call that? A consultant business.
Yeah.
And he is known as one of the best programmers in the Southwest of the United States. So, like, yeah, I
Great.
just happened to be, have a nice conversation with him. And then here he comes around like, "Hey, you want me to build that for you?" I'm like, "Okay, cool.
And
Let's
you've got
go."
the marketing skill too. And then, of
That's true.
course, the whole idea of this app is it's really going to. Didn't your mother was a veterinarian? Is that right?
Yeah, my mom's a veterinarian. So I grew up in an animal hospital, and I kind of saw, there was a lot of times, and we talked about this last time too,
Right.
where my mom would say, "Man, I wish they would have taken this dog to me sooner," or "I wish they would have, gotten help for their cat sooner, because we could have saved it if they brought it sooner." So, one of those things is like, it's hard sometimes. Like, cats are notorious for hiding their ailments. And, sometimes with dogs, like, you can't really tell what's wrong
Right.
because it could be multiple things. So, yeah, it will tell you if it thinks you need to see a vet, it will tell you. And then it will also show you vets in your area. So that's something that I really think will help. But yeah, AI is so interesting because, like you said, it would be great if we could use AI to make our lives better and the lives of our animals and pets better. And I think that is something that we can do.
Actually, I had something like that happen just recently. Speaking of applying AI and having it fix the problem that basically a human was not able to do because they had triggered a response in me at the
Mm,
bank. And so, just a deviation slightly, and I want to come back to concussion, traumatic brain injury, getting it treated by somebody who knows what they're talking about. Because a lot of times somebody will have a TBI, they look fine on the outside, but they are not fine.
Right. Right.
I have a good friend actually over in Denmark who had hypoxia at birth, and she looks fine, but she's not.
Oh.
But she's actually kind of charming now in some ways, but she needs help, right? And
Mhm.
so she's gotten help from the Danish medical system, right? Which is much more attuned to taking care of everybody.
Yes.
And that flat socialist kind of construct of health care for everyone, not just health care for those who can afford it.
Listen,
So that's
you
something I
can call
started
it
getting
whatever
into.
you like, but I am absolutely for healthcare for everyone. Socialist, communist, I don't care.
Well, and the
Healthcare for
masses
everyone.
are, right? That we don't have it. I'd say we have
Yeah.
a general strike until we get it, is what I'd
Right.
like to see, because we need better care for us as we age as well.
Yes,
And that's another thing I think AI can help with. We were talking about having
that's
robotic
true.
companions, because the people who are taking care of people out there, and they're doing good work, of course, but it's spotty and it's
Right.
hard and it's not
And there's
paid
not enough
well.
of them. Yeah, there's a lot
Right.
there.
So you get a whole lot of, and basically people are trying to do things on the cheap a lot of the times when
Hmm.
that's not what's in the best interest of the aging person whose, cognitive function may be affected by all kinds of things, including traumatic
Hmm.
brain injuries picked up along the way. If you're tall like I am, you get a lot of them.
Yeah.
Banging my head on stuff, banging my head against the wall, deliberately banging my head against the wall, metaphorically as well as literally. Getting back to the bank. So I go down to the bank with this check that came in the mail. Actually, was this person had contacted me and said that their wife and them, try to give to different causes. I've got my little Harold B. Gill Foundation LLC that I'm trying to run, and it seemed legit. Somebody wanted to support me. They're going to send me this check, and they want to do a paper check, so they wanted my address. So I was like, that sounds pretty legit. And the check comes in a mailing envelope that has the insurance and the tracking on it, right? So that looks pretty legit, but it's weird. And I check it out. Bank is legit. The LLC that the check is cut from is legit. And then I take it down to the bank and I say, I received this unsolicited and it's for more than the amount discussed with this person. If it's from them, I can't even tell if it's from them. They just said their financial agent would get in touch with me. They advised me strongly against depositing. I said, well, if it bounces, right? And then they said, well, I still wouldn't deposit it. And I said, well, I think I'll take my chances. And I went to do it. And then they came around the corner after going in the back and consulting with whoever was in charge there at the bank and said, if you deposit that bank against our advice and anything happens with it, we're going to close your accounts. And I've been banking here for
Oh,
31 years. What are you talking about? I'm not talking to you anymore. I'm going to deposit the check, which was wrong. I then consulted as I walked home. I should have listened to her, in other words, but she had come
okay.
at me in a way that was really rude and
Right.
basically set off my, you don't talk to me that way
Right.
kind of thing.
Right.
Customer service wise,
Yes.
interested
Yes.
in
The logic
marketing.
took a back seat and the feelings came
My
out. Yeah.
logic, and my thing was, and if it bounced, it bounced, I was thinking, but actually, no. If they had gotten access, it was a attempt to hack or to do something
Oh,
weird. And in fact, I did get communications afterwards that confirmed this. The check was for much more than the amount discussed. And they came back and said, "Oh, we cut it for too much. Will you send us the overage back?" Which there would not have been the funds for what I was supposed to
right.
be getting. It would have bounced in. I would have just fired it back before it processed fully, and then
Oh,
it would have bounced, and I would have been out that money. So it was a
oh,
scam.
yeah.
So this is a public service announcement, folks. If you ever get an unsolicited check or get this kind of outreach from somebody saying, "Hey, we want to give you money," do not accept it under any circumstances. I could imagine that somebody might want to support my work, which would be lovely, but
Mhm.
let's do it by subscribing to my Substack, and that will do it. The
There we
next
go.
the next thing, though, I guess I want to say about traumatic brain injury is in my crazy quilt career, which we're gonna expand about a little bit. I left Colonial Williamsburg and went back to the University of Pittsburgh. And I completed my master's in German, but it was the same problem I had as my BA. I didn't know what I wanted to do with it.
Right.
And I I thought, a job. So I was doing freelance translating and German to English. which I liked. I liked translating. I'd done a lot in Williamsburg, Handwerk Kunst in Tabellen, a 1767 to 77 vocational textbook from the Realschule in Germany. I'd worked through that, a good bit of the ironworking sections anyway. I didn't do everything in it, but it's a huge, expansive thing that is just a wonderful artifact of exactly that moment before the Industrial Revolution, right? And coming out of the same period as, good old Goethe is getting underway. So we go back to school, and I come out of there. Again, I'm kind of rudderless. But at the same time, right around that time, I'm working on my thesis. And a friend of mine's in the art history department, a couple of them, had started using, this is 1997, Match.com to find dates. And I thought, well, these girls are finding dates. I'll see what I can do. And we were sitting down at my coffee shop. I'm working on my thesis, and I get paged. And we go down and meet and this person at the Squirrel Hill Cafe, which is famous in Pittsburgh as one
That's
of
a
these
cute name.
dive bars. We call it the Squirrel Cage for short.
Oh,
And it's been in operation since Prohibition was ended.
wow.
So,
Interesting.
yeah, it's got a whole book about it called Behind the Red Door. Lynn always, my wife, says that sounds like a porn, but it's not. It's about this bar. But anyway, so lots of things happened there, including this date I had. And it turned out who I was meeting was the medical director of neuropsychiatry at the University of Pittsburgh's Medical Center,
Wow.
who was specialized in traumatic brain injuries. So that's where
Okay.
my knowledge of the field comes in. And we had a great time in a lot of ways. She was blonde, she was cute. She came in wearing overalls, and I thought, "Oh, this is interesting." And then when I found out what she did for a living, I was like, "Oh, this is a good thing. I don't know what I'm gonna be doing for a job, but hanging with her is probably not gonna be bad because she's a top of her field doc."
Right.
My
Maybe she can
wife had a
motivate you a
stroke,
little.
Well, I talked about my wife's stroke a little bit already, and I don't wanna eat up all the time here, so I'll try to get the story out quick. She's over in National Rehabilitation Hospital for her treatment initially, and then she goes back there for outpatient. And she's over there scheduling her stuff for outpatient one day, and I look across the room. This is in, I think, 2013. And the relationship, as I mentioned, was 1997. So way back. And I look across the room, and there's this blonde in a lab coat. And I say to my wife's doctor, who just happens to be there as I'm getting my parking validated, "Do you know Dr. Kraus over there?" And he looks at me and says, "Yeah, she just started here. Do you know her?" So
Oh
anyway,
no.
I went over and caught up, and I haven't really done that since, but it was kind of a small world experience. She was managing the concussion and traumatic brain injury program at George Washington Hospital after that fact, though. I sort of keep
Wow.
up with what's going on because I have a friend who has traumatic brain injury here locally, and I suggested she look her up, but apparently she's not taking new patients, or maybe she's retired. She's the director of the clinic, though, at the time, and this woman named Sue came in, still wearing a brace months later, and she had been, and my friend, the doctor, who I won't name, mentioned that sh- did an exam and found out that she had been concussed. She was on pain meds, and in this case, it was hard for her to realize that she had a concussion because of the lingering pain from the spinal injury, which may have masked the concussion effects.
Hmm.
Also, these C-spine injuries have a concussion component in many cases. So she was really good at being able to take someone who looks fine on the outside, like we were talking about earlier, and realize that, yeah, they look fine, but take their symptoms seriously because a lot of doctors will just like blow it off.
Yeah.
They won't realize what they're really dealing with, and you need to find somebody who's a specialist in traumatic brain injury, who knows something about it, and I just Googled this up, right? This is an article from George Washington University's website, news, Turning Heads, GWS Systemic Approach, Treating Concussion and Traumatic Brain Injury. So, yeah, you can actually recover a lot of function if you have a good doc. I presume you do have. I'm just
Yeah.
assuming that. Yeah. It was just kind of amazing, and I learned so much just in dating her and, traveling to
How long
Europe
did you
together
date
in
her
the
for?
past. Not long,
Okay.
because it was, it became apparent that there were issues other than, just And, I was, not employed much, and I think she finally got the idea that she might be more appropriate to date somebody more in her realm, and there was
Mhm.
a psychologist or something that she worked with, she tried to have a relationship with. She never had really good luck in personal relations. There's a lot of
Oh,
high-placed, high-powered, top of
that's
the
true.
flight people have
Right.
trouble in that regard, and
Yep.
particularly women. I mean, it's not
Yeah.
fair, but it's true. We
Yep.
I didn't have any problem with her being really that, and we remained friends, which was kinda nice for a long time till in 2001, I was over in Chicago flying over from Denmark where I'd been working for a small web software company as their tech writer, and I did that for a couple of years after
Oh,
Pittsburgh.
interesting.
And yeah, thank you. And I don't wanna keep you all day because I'm beginning to run up against 10 o'clock, and we talked about Lincoln just about an hour.
We
But
could
the
go over
bottom
a
line
little bit because we haven't gotten to the topic that I'm really interested in, which is what job would you want if you could get any job?
oh, that's an interesting one too. I like the job I'm in right now, which is which
Talking
is
to me?
yeah, talking to you, right? It's kind of a type of journalism, and
Yeah.
it's building relationships one-on-one, and it's also my passing show. I don't know if you ever tune in, but I will go out on the street and do raw journalism. Who, what,
I
when,
have
and
seen that.
where.
Yep.
Primary documentation for historians of the future, I call it. That
Hmm.
Harrowing's the passing show. And we are all a part of this passing show, right? And all these characters I'm talking about, I'm writing about them, right, as well.
Yep.
So I was gonna write one called That's Gonna Leave a Mark.
Yes. Yes. Well, listen, if you write it, I know someone who can edit it because that's what I did for 10 years. So
Well, feel free to edit me.
come talk to me.
It's easy. One of the problems, of course, I have is income. And I did get a new free subscriber yesterday, and somebody we're gonna be interviewing soon, and you may be interested in it. Um, book. Do I have the book? Yeah, I do have one of the books. She's put out a few things, and I wanna come back to the well, I've lost what I was gonna come back to.
Oh.
But this one's Small Acts to Change the World. There's
Oh, I like her already.
500 ways to make a difference, and that's by Amy Neumann.
So
So,
when are you
Amy, if
talking
you're
to
out
Amy?
there eh? What's that?
When are you talking to Amy? You said you're gonna talk to her?
Yeah, soon. I think we scheduled for I forgot. It's in my calendar, though, if I could find my calendar. I don't know. Maybe it's the 11th, 2 o'clock, I think.
Okay. I'll keep
9/11.
an eye out
That's
for
gonna
it.
be tricky because I found out after I scheduled it that The Who's gonna have 9/10 in Philadelphia, and I'll be coming back from Philadelphia.
Uh-oh.
So, I may be doing it from the road. I may stop at, like, one of the little rest areas on 95 South as I'm heading back into DC to do this talk, but I'm looking forward to it. She's also got another one called Empowering Your Nonprofit, and it's about using AI to do it.
Oh, wow.
And it's a fresh one. And she also does a lot of lobbying for blockchain, Bitcoin, that type of thing here in DC.
Interesting.
She's I think she's got degrees in the field now and all kinds of stuff. I have the other book somewhere here, but I gotta admit, I've got to do some organization because it's really piling up.
So
Um,
your answer is you wanna continue doing what you're doing?
right, I want to get paid for it. I want people to
Yeah.
subscribe to me enough that I actually build up. We were talking about subscribers and stuff and how I do this for myself, first and
Mhm.
foremost, the inner self, the spirit of loving kindness within me. As my
Yes.
old, when I was in Pittsburgh, after Marilyn, or she went by Lynn, and I split up. Um, I got sober. I went over to a place. It was a real quick story on this one, if you'd allow me to go a few
Go
minutes
for it.
over. My first date with her, we sat down at the squirrel cage after meeting at this going back down to my coffee shop, which seemed to be a little too bright for her, she thought. So we went back to the dark bar, sat down at the bar, and she said, and I was a week sober at the time. I'd stopped drinking for a week because I knew I'd never finish my thesis if I kept drinking like I drank, which is a lot. And because I enjoyed it, right? I really
Sure.
felt that really put me in the zone. I just loved to read until whatever I was reading scrolled on the page. And I was talking about hard copy now. I'm not talking about scrolling on a screen.
Huh.
I was lost control of my eyeballs, in other words. That's how I like to drink. But she says to me, I'm a week, just cold turkey, stopped. And she says, it's nice to go out with a guy and have a beer because all my friends are in recovery and they'll tell you their whole life story as soon as you meet them. I said,
Awesome.
and
Awesome.
or we had a beer together, and there went that week of not drinking, and I
There
went
went the
on
week.
through that entire relationship, indulging and just having a great time. Getting some work as a freelance translator, but not enough to support myself really. But I wasn't actually looking for money from her. I was subsidizing it with credit cards or whatever, driving up my debt as I was
Mm.
thinking about what I'd be doing next for a living. I took a job in a hardware store to fill the bills and make sure I had enough for rent. And she was kind of like, "What are you doing working in a hardware store? You're capable of so much more. Why aren't you doing?" And I think that was one of the reasons that the relationship sort of split up. And then when I went over to get my stuff from her, she asked me what I was going to do. I said, "Well, the first thing I'll do, I think I'll go to AA and sober up." I had not been to AA since '85, and this was '97. So, and I usually don't tell all this story, but I like telling it because it's
Yeah.
kind of interesting to me. She said to me at that time, being a medical director of neuropsychiatry, "Well, I never knew you had a problem." And now she'd been with me 24/7 when we were over in Europe, and if she didn't know I had a problem, she wasn't paying attention.
I mean,
I could just
I guess so.
handle it, right? It was kind of maintenance, and I was enjoying it. And I wasn't violent. I wasn't like depressed. I was having a
Mhm.
good time with it, and, but I would push it beyond what most people would do,
Mm.
and physically, what the World Health Organization says is a safe amount of alcohol for human consumption? As of January 4th, 2023, they put out a
Um,
statement.
I don't.
The safe amount is none at all,
I wondered. That did pop through my head, but that makes
and
sense.
that's the
Yeah.
World Health Organization, that is not me.
Right.
So if any of my audiences out there wants a solution to it, there is a solution. It's been in action for 90 years plus, and it doesn't involve much more than just talking with another person who's been there, right?
Mm.
A lot of people think there's a lot more to it. There really isn't. There's no requirement for anything aside from desire and then talking one-on-one with somebody else about what you're doing to yourself and how to stop it usually works. It's been working for 90 years, as I mentioned, and it's called Alcoholics Anonymous, right?
Right.
People know that. But people do think all kinds of things about it. They think, they believe in God. Not necessarily. There are a lot of atheists amongst us. There are a lot of Gnostic theists, too. I consider myself a Gnostic theist. Do you know what that is? Gnostic theist?
You believe in something, but that's about it.
No, a Gnostic is somebody who knows.
Okay.
And a theist is somebody who is a believer in gods and
Okay.
goddesses existing. So Gnostic theist knows that gods and goddesses exist. I know they exist as concepts in people's minds. I
Okay.
don't know if they exist elsewhere or not. So every atheist I've ever met is probably actually a Gnostic theist. They know gods and goddesses exist in the minds of other people, and they're doubtful about them existing anywhere else besides as
Hmm.
figments of our imaginations. I don't know. I could be wrong, right? And I see evidence in the world, but I'm a pattern recognizing animal,
Hmm.
right? And on the savannah, you got to be one because
Yeah.
if you don't recognize the patterns in the grass, you are dinner.
Right. I would like to say I do think it's very interesting. I actually minored in philosophy. I got my undergrad in English, but I minored in philosophy. It was because I went to University of St. Thomas, which is a Catholic university in Houston, and I only went there because I got a small scholarship, so and it wasn't far from home. So I was like, well, that's the one I'm going to go to. It's the first one I applied to. I'm lazy. I don't want to go anywhere else because I've already got accepted. So I went there. Never went to their church. Never did anything like that. I did do a little job where I was just trying to earn extra money. So I helped in the kitchens that fed the priests that were there. They had like a little community, and I helped feed the priests that were there. They're super nice older guys. Just they didn't really talk to me much. They were just thank you, and that was it. So that was nice. But yeah, the philosophy was super interesting, and I like that you say I don't actually know, but this is what I think, and I think that's a good point. Is like, we have to think about something, whether it's we believe God exists or we don't believe God exists. If we acknowledge that we don't know, but we do have a belief, I think that's an interesting point because it keeps us from being part of like a cult or part of a community that is like, we know this is the fact and
Right,
everyone
right.
must
The flat
follow.
earthers.
Right.
I
Right.
belong to the Church of the Subgenius. Are you familiar with the Church of the Subgenius? Do you know them?
No, but I'm laughing because I love the name subgenius. That's
Well,
interesting.
that came up because these two guys in Texas were sitting around smoking pot, and they realized, our problem is we're not really like geniuses; we're like subgeniuses.
Okay.
And then they said, "Well, that sounds like a great idea for a church," and they established the Church of the Subgenius, and they have a zine initially, where you Xerox a bunch of clip art together and
Okay.
then publish it by Xeroxing it and mailing it
I just
out.
looked it up. It said it's a parody religion. Is that correct?
Well, you could call it that. I mean, hail Bob. Um, they the prophet is J.R. Bob Dobbs. He's a piece of clip art that looks like Ward Cleaver with a pipe.
Okay.
And yeah, it's interesting. This for philosophy, I go to Paul Feyerabend quite a bit. You know Belt Feyerabend?
No, I think I need to read more before we have another conversation, Hal, because I feel like you've read everything.
Well, Farewell to Reason is a really interesting collection of essays. I've got to read it one of these days thoroughly, but
Okay.
it offers a vigorous challenge to the scientific rationalism that underlies Western ideals of progress and development, whose damaging social and ecological consequences are now widely recognized.
Hmm.
Feyerabend himself, professor of philosophy at UC Berkeley and professor of philosophy of science at the Federal Institute of Technology at Zurich, died in 1994. And his books included philosophical papers and Against Method. And then there's another one that came out after he died called The Conquest of Abundance. And it's a tale of abstraction versus the richness of being.
Hmm.
And the fact is, with the Course in Miracles idea that I know nothing about this sphere of copper here,
I
um,
know nothing. Yep.
it's nice. I like it. It's a good thing to meditate on because all this copper that's in it had to come from supernova explosions. That's
Hmm.
how copper is made, is in the explosions of supernovas. And then it had to all come here to be there. And I think about that a lot. Is think that long view. Um, but knowing nothing about it is, and what was I going on to about this? Oh, the conquest of abundance, a tale of abstraction versus the richness of being, that we are all at a remove because of our tendency to classify, to label, from being able to be in contact with the richness of being. Kind of like that thing of just to be versus to do.
Right.
My other, uh, guide in these things is named Wavy Gravy, and I don't seem to have Wavy's CDs at hand right now, or DVDs.
That sounds
There's
like a gamer tag. Wavy gravy.
right. No, not there. It'll come up sometime or another, somewhere within range, but I don't have it at hand. His biopic, basically, that was done by Michelle Ezrick in 2009 is called Saint Misbehavin'. No, subtitle Saint Misbehavin', the Wavy Gravy story. So let me tell you a little bit
Okay.
about Wavy before we wrap up. We've gone
Okay.
10 minutes over, and I want to be respectful of your time.
Okay.
And that is that he's got this thing where he says, doobie doobie do. Cute, right? And the idea is you act, you be, you, and it came out as a chant in the establishment of Seva, which is Sanskrit for service. It was an organization that came out of Steve Jobs wanting to get together the people who were responsible for eradicating smallpox to tackle what's next. And what's next was unnecessary blindness, giving eyesight to the blind.
Hmm.
So you sort of get where I'm going with this. And Wavy was part of the group that did that. Now, Wavy's original name was Hugh Romney. And if you watch the Woodstock film, he's the guy on the microphone and the sort of straw hat and coveralls saying, what we have in mind is breakfast in bed for 400,000 as they're going to distribute granola or out to all the hippies to keep them from getting out in the mud after the rains. So he's a fixture in the hog farm, which is a long-running commune, a counterculture clown, and he was given the name by B.B. King at the Texas Pop Festival after Woodstock, where he was again trying to act as security for the crowd by being basically a lunatic. So you're talking about goofiness and things like that. Wavy's got that going on. His wife is more grounded. She was in. Are you a Star Trek fan at all?
Yes.
Do you know the original series, The Shadow of the Gun,
Not
which is
that
where they go back to
crazy of a start.
They go back to OK
Okay.
Corral, and they're transported by these aliens into the OK Corral, where the Star Trek Enterprise crew are the bad guys and, well, or the rebels or whatever, the wranglers or rustlers or whatever they are. And Doc Holliday and Wyatt Earp and company are there to going to meet him and kill him in OK Corral. But Spock manages to convince them that this is an illusion and the bullets just pass through them and they don't get killed.
Nice.
In it, Chekhov does get killed but he just gets transported back there. But his love interest is this girl, and that ends up being Wavy Gravy's wife. So that's her claim
Oh,
to fame. She was a little starlet. And she was also in the University of Minnesota with Bob Dylan during Bob's university days before he came to New York.
Wow.
So she's the girl from the North Country in Pre-Wheel and Bob Dylan. I don't know if you know the album, but it was like one of his first ones. I think second one, 1963. It came out the year I was born. And during the time running up to that, when Bob moved to New York for a time, he was sharing a room over the gaslight with Hugh Romney. So,
wow.
Small world stuff.
You know a lot of like little tiny details. Maybe you need to be one of those niche like writers and journalists that brings back some of those things and draws the connections, because I think that would be super interesting.
Yep.
But you can't speak to Gen Zers because they may have no clue what you're talking about.
They need education in that, right?
That's true.
My friend Lisa Law, who was responsible for the pre-kitchen at Woodstock being supplied with Dixie cups and paper plates and rows of vegetables from nearby farms, wrote this one, Flashing on the 60s.
Oh, wow.
A tribal document from Lisa Law.
Lisa Law's a cool name.
Yeah, her husband, Tom Law, was the road manager of these guys.
Oh.
Peter, Paul, and Mary.
Yeah.
You may have heard of them.
Yeah, I have.
And this is an autographed copy of a photograph Lisa did of them in August 1964 that she sent me for helping her with her Museum of the 60s, a pop-up museum in 2021. So, one thing leads to another, as the Fix said.
Nice.
Bring it a little more closer to modern times. The Fix is probably late in your
yeah.
One-hit wonder band or something. So anyway, I do enjoy those things. Lisa was also and the hog farm, they had money from having appeared as extras in this little film here called Skidoo. Huh. It's terrible. It stars Jackie Gleason.
Oh, wow. But it's terrible.
It's awful.
Why do you have it if it's terrible?
Because Lisa's in it, and it is a historical document, and it's the last film that Groucho Marx appears in.
Okay.
As an actor. He plays a gangster called God. Speaking of God.
That's funny. We circle back to God by talking about the gangster version. I love it. That's great.
Yeah,
I think we should end on that.
And Groucho was great. I mean, I think that everybody ought to know Groucho's work and, the Marx Brothers and what they brought to the table. Harpo, the silent brother, the one who plays the harp and just doesn't talk.
Yes.
You know that guy?
The silent one. Yep.
Yep. He's kind of a clown. He actually wrote a book called Harpo Speaks. It's 500 pages long. It's huge. And his career and the people he knew and, sitting around the Algonquin round table with all these characters, it's not that far away. It's in the 30s and 40s we're talking about, which now we're in the 20s of the next century. We're very close to these times, and I think we need to know more about them. You're
I
speaking
agree.
my era now. Somebody is
Yes.
saying, ha ha ha.
Yes. That's a
And we
friend
just
of
had another
mine.
one join.
Yep, she's, I believe in your age group. So yeah.
Well, that's the thing, right? We need to try to keep those things alive. I was only like 6 when Woodstock happened,
Hmm.
but there are other younger artists who are carrying on the torch. I'm wearing a T-shirt actually along those lines. I don't know if you can see the motto on it. It
Once,
says, what does it say?
once in a
What
whole
a while.
a while,
You get shown the
you,
light, and you
oh,
notice the skeleton playing the keyboards, but
that's
it's not the
super
Grateful
cute.
Dead. That's a Grateful Dead lyric. It's LPGOB. Have I held it up hard enough?
Yes.
LPGOB is like a DJ, young woman. Her real name I've forgotten, but she's got all these kids out there dancing and stuff. And what she's done is taken little clips, little stems, they're called, of Jerry Garcia and remixed it. You know, the Jerry Garcia album that he did, a solo album back in the day. So I try to support musicians, artists, other writers, try to amplify the signal through the noise. And that's the work I want to do. Now,
Yeah.
getting paid for it's another matter
Right.
entirely. I'm just giving it away.
Yes.
But there are some people. Amy Neumann became a paid subscriber recently, as I mentioned her book, which
That's
was
pretty
around here
awesome.
somewhere, about the ways to change the world. She actually wrote them up here, and we could go through that sometime. Maybe next time we get together, because I do want to be respectful of your time. We've run 17 minutes over.
We have.
That's
I
been
love that
very,
you're more
very
concerned about it than I am, even though I've got groceries I got to pick up. But you're like, I've run over. But yes, I think it's important to run over sometimes when you've got something to say. What does that say?
walk a shelter dog. I just threw it open.
Oh, I
Many
love it.
animal shelters can use dog walkers. Walking dogs can help them burn off energy, mix with other dogs, and feel loved. There are
Yes.
also opportunities to help process adoption, socialize animals, or tidy up a shelter, show some puppy love. Isn't that wild that I threw it open to
Yes.
that one on page 64 just
That's
randomly?
perfect. That's perfect. Yeah. I would love for my whole family to volunteer at a shelter, but I cannot because then we would have more animals than we have now, and we can't afford that. So, I mean, I looked at a guinea pig, and now we have three of them because of my husband. So there you go.
Well, maybe we can encourage our audience to get out there and do some of these things and to look up this book, Small Acts to Change the World, and come back
Yes.
to the podcast with Amy Neumann. I believe it's 9/11, 2 p.m. I definitely will be sending it out through Harrowings.
Yes, I want to check that out. I like the mentality of how you can help the world and people. Like that's why I'm creating the Petpedia app. So I think she and I would get along really well.
Well, thank you so much for the extra 20 minutes, Jessica
Absolutely.
Alpha. It's always a joy, and I'm glad you were able to pick up and get back on with me here. We'll do it again.
Yes. Awesome. Yep. I enjoy it. We should definitely do it again, but I'm going to pick the topic next time.
And hopefully I'll nail it and stick to it because I go everywhere.
I'm not counting on that, but actually, I think that's part of the beauty of it. That's okay. You're allowed to be yourself, as I've said. That's the best way to be. So
Yeah,
that's
I think
good
I
to
might try to be more focused. I've had some wild interviews lately. You should check out the one
really.
that I did with I did 2.5 hours with this one guy. What was his name? Eric Knudsen. Um,
Mm,
he's a writer. He's an acquired taste, so definitely R rated.
yeah. Oh, interesting. Yeah. I just remembered Sandy is one of the ones who was the beta tester for my app, so she actually tested it. So nice. All right. Well, yeah, it was great talking to you, and thanks everybody for watching. We started with like 8, and now we're at 21 watchers. I think that's awesome. So appreciate it.
Yeah, 19 others anyway. There's the two of us are counted as
Oh,
well,
that's
by
true.
the way.
Oh,
All right.
but we were counted in the 8 too. So hey, there we go.
Yep. Hang in there, keep being the change you want to see in the world. Every cent we spend is a vote.
Yes, I love it. Those
Keep
are
that in
good.
mind.
Yes.
Out here. Thanks again.
Awesome. Bye, guys.